So we're back, and we're going to be covering how pieces capture. First, we're going to start with the pawn. We're going to presume in this instance that it's white to move, and remember when you set up your chessboard, the white square is always going to be to the right, and you'll notice for your opponent, the white square is to the right. So in this instance here, it's white to move. Now, what pieces can the white pawn capture at this moment? Can it capture the knight? No, because the knight can't be captured with a pawn moving forward, but remember that the pawn captures to the side. And so here I'm left with two choices, and so I can capture the pawn to the right, which is worth 1 point, or I can capture to the right, and that queen is worth 9 points. So if I was looking at to be able to capture the most valuable piece, I would capture to the left, and I'd capture the pawn. So now let's see an instance where we're moving up in the value. Now let's go with, let's say, a knight. And in the same circumstances, remember, if the object is to be able to capture with the knight one of the two pieces, again, I have a choice. Let's just substitute it this time. Instead of a pawn, we're going to have a rook and a queen. So remember that the knight moves like an L, and so up to and over, or up to and over to the other side, or one and then up to, or one and up to. In other words, to be able to capture these two pieces. So I have a choice of capturing on white's turn the rook, because it's moving like an L, or moving like an L to capture the queen. So the rook is worth 5 points, the queen is worth 9 points. So if I was going to capture the most valuable piece, in this instance I would capture like the L to the right, and I would capture the queen. Okay, so now let's choose another piece here. So we've talked about the pawn, we've talked about the knight. Now we're going to choose the bishop. And so remember, the bishop moves diagonally on its color, and since it starts off here on the white, I can and I'm looking to capture the most valuable piece. In this instance, now I have a choice of if I had 3 pieces here, I can only capture diagonally, and so I have a piece worth 3 points, which is the knight, or 9 points, which is the queen. If I wanted to capture the most valuable piece here, I would capture the queen again, which is going to be 9 points. But what if I had a choice of either capturing the knight or the rook, and it's white to move, the bishop to move. In this instance, it's the knight is valued at 3 points, and the rook is valued at 5 points. The most valuable piece here to choose would be the rook, and it captures to the side. Okay, so we've just stepped through that. Now we're going to have an instance where I have something surrounding it, and now it's white to move, and remember the rook can move all the way up or all the way back or to the sides, and it's the rook to move, and so I can choose point value of 3 points for the knight, or 5 points for the rook, or 9 points for the queen. And the object is to capture the most valuable piece, and in this instance I'm going to choose to capture again the queen, which is worth 9 points. So remember, I can either take in front of me, I can capture that way, or to the sides here. This instance I'm going to capture the queen. So we've had a chance right now to work through and capturing with the pawn, the knight, the bishop, the rook. Now we'll try the queen. Remember that the queen is worth 9 points, and so if I had all of these pieces here to choose from, remember the queen can capture it, like any other piece except for the knight, and so let's just surround it with a number of things. And if it was, the object was to be able to capture the most valuable piece, again we have the black knight has 3 points, the queen is 9 points, the rook is 5 points, the bishop is 3 points, and the pawn is 1 point. So if I wanted to capture the most valuable piece on this turn, which one would I grab? The most valuable piece would be capturing diagonally, capturing the queen, which is 5. If I wanted to choose the second most valuable piece, I would choose the rook, which is 5 points. If I wanted to capture the third most, then it would be a tie between the bishop and the knight, and I could capture either one of those, and the one that's the least value is the pawn. And so this is how, with the various pieces, in this instance we've attempted to capture with the pawn, knight, bishop, rook, and queen. We've just shown you how you can capture.